Midwest Telehealth Resource Center. I want to thank you for joining us today. We do have a relatively small group today for today's virtual office hours. And really, we're going to be tooting our own horn. We're kind of bad at doing that. But today we're going to talk about a program that I couldn't have launched without Caroline Yoder's help, and kind of ask her some leading questions, and we'll see where the conversation takes us. So Caroline, you are the brains behind our new podcast series, A Virtual View. What can you tell us about the process of choosing all of the things that I didn't even know went into creating a podcast?
Yeah, I feel like there's kind of a short list of things that you kind of need to start out with. So before we made this podcast, I listened to a lot of podcasts. I like podcasts. I think they're a really good way to be entertained, be educated, and be able to just kind of multitask. You're not having to like watch something. You can kind of listen and keep going on. And so I think in listening to podcasts, that kind of gave me a good start to kind of know what to need. And then also Googling and researching. So I feel like step one to having a podcast is an idea, and having that idea fill a needed void in content. What are you going to be offering to the podcast realm? We aren't the first podcast to talk about telehealth, but we do have a perspective that other people don't have. We have a specific region, we have specific contacts that other people don't have. And that kind of helps us get out some information and content that wouldn't otherwise be out there. So kind of having an idea that allows you to put new content in. And then once you kind of have that, then you kind of start going down the checklist of things that you need. So you need a title, something that is, easy, catchy, something that's easy to type, easy to spell, easy to look up. Just kind of, something catchy that people can easily share and think about. You'll need cover art, and you'll need something that can hold up in a small resolution, something that can be seen at a distance. You can look at the other podcasts in your genre and kind of see what they're doing and look to do something similar, but also different enough to stand out. A lot of contrast is good, high contrast. And then not a necessity, but really good to have is music. A lot of people play themselves in and play themselves out. You can compose your own. You can get someone to compose it. You can look for royalty-free music. You can buy the rights to certain songs. We had a contact with a composer, so we ended up having our music be composed by someone else, which was really, really cool. And it's a cool way to kind of add interest to your podcast, have something that's yours, because then you're not having to worry about rights. You're not having to worry about anyone else having your music, what you have, and you get to kind of have something tailor-made to you. It's not a necessity, but it is really, really cool. And then once you have all of that, you basically just need to record and post. A thing that is pretty much a necessity to have is a podcast syndicate platform. So you can pick, there are many different ones. If you've never heard of them before, literally go to Google and just Google podcast syndicate. And you'll be able to find tons of different programs that they all kind of have their own thing they boast. So we go through Captivate, which they rank their pricing based on episode downloads. So they do not charge per podcast series, per podcast episode, or per member on your account. They just charge for episode downloads. So that's part of the reason we picked them, because we like to be able to have different employees in our accounts so that people can have statistics, the information to upload to our websites and social media, and allowing, kind of to have a bigger team. And then when you pick a podcast syndicate, then you just have to record it, and you can get as fancy or as simple as you want. When we were in the studio, we had mics hooked up to an audio interface, hooked up to a computer, and recorded them. But since now that COVID has kind of had us all be in our homes, we've had to kind of change that process. So right now we record through Zoom into a different program and then edit from there. But like we record through mics, but I also have our guests record their voice through their phones as a backup because phone recorders are really good. The technology has really advanced. And so, you know, if you're starting a podcast, you can literally just record your voice on your phone and you can edit it if you want and upload it. So just finding ways, there's lots of different ways to record a podcast, from getting, you know, $500 mics to using the phone in your pocket. Mm-hmm. Kind of went through that fast. I don't know if you have anything you want me to expand on.
That's fine. So when, and some of this, I let Caroline do her magic, and I don't really get involved in some of the details. But once we chose Captivate, did you have to tell Captivate, hey, I want to, I'm not sure what the right word is, publish, send this episode, this series to the different podcast software programs?
So that's what's kind of nice about picking a syndicate platform is you might be like, okay, well, I listen to my podcast on Apple Podcasts, or I listen to my podcasts on Google Podcasts. I know those are popular, but I don't really know all of the popular podcast platforms. If your syndicate is a good syndicate, they will already have selected a lot of those very popular podcast listening platforms for you. So for example, on Captivate, we fill out a form. So we have our cover art on there. And then every time I upload a new episode, I pick a title, I write the description, upload the audio, and then basically just click send. They have a page where they have all of their different podcast listening platforms, and you can kind of pick and choose who you want to distribute to. I think Captivate maybe has 15-ish to 20-ish options. And you just kind of go through and select all of the ones that you want. Some of them might take a few more steps. For example, Apple Podcasts, you have to, we clicked to choose it through Captivate, but then there are a few more steps on Apple Podcasts that you have to complete. But Captivate took me there, so it was really easy. Once you get approved, because the first time you upload a podcast, it's going to take a few more days to get approved. So keep that in mind if you have a date that you're wanting to publish by. You're going to want to take into account 2, 3, 4 more days than normal for that to get published, to get approved. But once you go through that first process of getting it approved on all the different platforms, then you can just upload your podcast and it to the syndicate, and the syndicate will distribute to the podcast platforms by itself.
And we
can even make edits. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would say the platforms that we chose were Apple, or the was it iTunes podcast?
Yeah, we have Apple Podcasts,
the Google Play, and did we choose Spotify?
We have Spotify as well, and then we have a small handful of a couple other ones that I can't name off the top of my head, but that are, I think Stitcher is one of them. Just a few other popular ones that might not be like what maybe first comes to mind for people when they listen to podcasts, but just a handful of other ones that they offer.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Do you want to show folks where they can find our podcasts?
Yeah, sure.
Or would you like me to?
Doesn't matter.
You go ahead.
Okay.
I think you have permissions.
Okay, let me share my screen.
While Caroline is doing that, feel free to put questions in the chat or unmute yourself if you've got questions.
So one place that you can find them on the UMTRC website, under engagement, we have a podcasts page, and it kind of lists it does list every one of our episodes. So you can kind of click on the one that you're interested in, gives you the show notes, a player that you can listen to it, and all of our resources. So this is an easy way to find it on our website, but then also you can search for A Virtual View on most podcast listening platforms, and you should be able to find it as well.
Thank you. And then you can see here, you can leave a comment or suggest a topic or request to be a guest. So if you have some ideas, we are currently going through a lot of the programs internal to the IRHA and interviewing them. But then we will be reaching out to the general public in our region. We've got some speakers lined up that are outside of our region, but we want to highlight telehealth programs and talk about, where's policy going? We always get the question, what happens after the COVID waivers? And if you want to join us again this afternoon, if you can go to events and stakeholder calls, we'll be talking about policy around our region and where we think it might be going. But as my favorite quote specific to telehealth and the coronavirus is from Seema Verma, and she said that the genie's out of the bottle. So we have already seen in the states of Michigan and Ohio that they are continuing to allow patients to be at home for visits. And throughout right now, the public health emergency at the federal level lasts until April. So as long as, since that's gone into 2020, some of the regulations for Medicare will take that into the end of, it's gone into 2021. And those waivers will last until the end of 2021. So we hope that you are interested in listening to additional podcasts and might give us some ideas on topics or people that we should talk to. What questions do you guys have for us? This may be our shortest virtual office hours ever.
Is there anything else you wanted me to highlight, Becky?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
All right. Well, hearing no questions, you can certainly send us information via email or through the Contact Us page on our website. Carolyn, in our chat, can you go ahead and put our survey? It's just a quick couple question survey. As we are federally funded, we request feedback on how we're doing and what we could do better. So that's available in the chat. And I guess have a good rest of your day and have a good week. Thank you. Bye.